What do you guys give me if I kill that bird?
Barbara, that's a bald eagle.
Get away, Baldy! Yeah!
Oh, well, good evening, and good evening. This is The Wort with Mike, Pete, and Steve, GovsRadio.com. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in tonight. We are going to be live on YouTube. We are live on the Facebook. We are live on GovsRadio.com. We're live on Instagram. And we're live on a lot of other things later in the week when we finally get the podcast version. And then you pretend like it's live, okay? So you just pretend like, oh, yeah, look at them. They're live yet again. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. The Wort with Mike, Pete, and Steve, GovsRadio.com. We do have a very awesome brewery in the house tonight. We'll get to them in just a minute. But first, we must get to our sponsors. Steven, take it away with Rosie's Draft Solutions.
That's right. Rosie's Draft Solutions is a Long Island family-owned business that provides professional draft beer system services, line cleaning to maintenance, draft beer line system installs, event dispensing solutions, and more. They are very passionate about craft beer and making sure it has the same quality as when it left the brewery, which is only done by one way, making sure that draft system is perfectly clean. Rosie's services bars, restaurants, halls, event, and all other beverage establishments, including home kegerator system installs and maintenance. They service the likes of W.A. Meadworks, Blue Point Brewing, Darling Brewing, 1940s Hopwinds, Mauritius Field, and of course our buddies over at Hopscotch Bottle Shop.
Hopscotch?
Hopscotch! You can reach Rosie's Draft Solutions at rosiesdraftsolutions@gmail.com. or call them at 631-219-2075, Monday to Sunday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you mention the Wort, you're going to get a little discount.
That's right. Call Rosie's Draft Solutions. Tell Nick the Wort sent you for your 10% off your service or hardware, rosiesdraftsolutions.com. Tonight, we are also sponsored by one of our new favorite little toys, Peter. Tell us a little bit about Beer Maker, buddy.
Beer Maker. At-home beer making appliance, all grain. It's delicious. I just finally carved up and refrigerated my squeaky Kolsch.
Ooh.
It's delicious. It was easy. It was about 15 minutes of fumbling around, watching some really informative YouTube clips, and then getting a couple things on my phone. Awesome. Highly recommended. Use promo code The Wort for a discount off your machine and first kit. And it's awesome. Go watch them on Shark Tank.
Yes, 2 weeks ago.
Did not get a deal. They got burned by how much money they asked for. But it was a really good segment.
Yep.
And the beer is great.
That's it.
Beer Maker.
BEERMKR.com. And again, use promo code The Wort to receive 10% off your order. That goes for not only the device, but also all the kits in the future. Aaron really did a great job with us. And then within a week, told us that he was going to be on Shark Tank. And we're like, you son of a bitch. You sneaky little guy. So this, it was a great segment, like Pete said. And yeah, I mean, Mr. Wonderful was not all too thrilled about the ask, the evaluation. That's correct. But other than that, they did a great job, and they really did sell it. They're also, if anyone's looking to be an investor in this awesome thing, go onto their website, and they have investment options for you. They're not doing Kickstarter, they're doing like serious shares of the potential company. So check them out. Go to beermaker.com. Tonight we're also sponsored by VintageBeerClubShirt.com, VintageBeerClubShirt.com for your vintage shirt club needs. That's so hard to say. It's forward.
I'm so glad I'm not doing that one.
VintageBeerShirtClub.com. Type in Wort, W-O-R-T, for a percentage off your order. Tonight, we're also sponsored by Brewbag, of course. It's getting warm out. It's getting sunny out. And who doesn't want to play beer pong cornhole in your backyard? Hashtag yard games. Go to brewbag.com. We're going to be sporting the Brewbag down at AC Beer Fest June 4th and 5th. We're going to be playing a hell of a lot of times there. But that is not the most immediate festival that's going on. Tonight, we have Rachel and I believe it's Ross, correct? From Ouzelfinch.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And thanks. You got in late, and I was in the middle of the startup, and I didn't say my proper introduction. So how are you? No, quite all right. No worries. And so you guys have a festival coming up. I want to get right to that because the first thing, and I'll give you my whole backstory of how I got to discover you guys. And I'm not the only one, by the way. I didn't find you, and that was the first time you became a brewery. But it was because of the amazing sours you guys are putting out there. The one that I always go to an IPA to see what the brewery's all about, but my wife got a sour. I have it here, one left of the pack that we brought home a few weeks ago, and I really want to get into these. So first, give us the overall idea of what's coming up here in the next few days for Sourfest. Friends with Benefits, I believe it's called Sourfest.
Is that a mule in the background?
Is it a bird?
So we have a brewery pig.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
I believe I've seen those posts.
Steve and I were so off.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess you were closer. You said mule. Mule is a farm animal like a pig.
Yes.
She's not happy.
Either that or was Uncle Jed really having a seizure?
Having a tough time.
Yeah, she if I don't get her home usually by like 5 or 6 to kind of see her dog, she doesn't fare well. So
that is one fussy hog.
That's awesome.
I don't know, man. You better get your pig home.
Yeah.
One of those like little like teacup pigs, or is it like, are we talking like a
full on?
I wish she was a teacup pig. Here in a second, after we've had a couple more drinks, I'll try and pick her up and show you what Satan sounds like.
Man.
Get those beer muscles together. Oh, boy. Well, that's awesome. All right, so tell us a little bit about the festival coming up, because I want to get that not out of the way, because we're going to bring it up a little later too, but I wanted to start with that because it's the most immediate thing that's going to be happening with you guys in the next few days, and you guys have been promoting it and showing it off and throwing out all the recipe beers that you guys are putting together. Give us a little rundown on how this festival came about, how you're able to kind of break free of the COVID restraints and able to have this festival.
Yeah, so we honestly, the festival originally was just going to be an online fest, which we started doing online fest last summer. We did FML Fest, which we were able to bring in a lot of killer breweries from across the country and ship out boxes to 10 different states.
Wow.
This one was going to be the same type of thing. And we did do that, and we put it on. And then about a month and a half ago, the governor here in Virginia lifted the restraints. And so we thought, what better time to kind of be the first at the punch to do a hybrid online physical fest. We had already had 21 other breweries on at that point who were in the boxes. Now we're up to 41 breweries and ourselves, and
Nice.
some of the best sours from across the nation are going to be here, and we've ordered separate beers from what was in the box. So if you had the box and you're like us, everybody found out last minute that we were going to get to do this thing. So we've got different stuff that's going to be available on tap here on Saturday, actually.
Yeah. So I know, like a lot of the governors around the states, New York including this Wednesday, lifting a bunch of restrictions. Tell us, kind of what you guys are leaning against here for the physical part of the brewery, the festival rather.
I mean, honestly, we have a massive field out front. We sit on the water, and so it's we have a great space to just kind of spread out and have people out in an open air kind of environment. We are taking a little bit more precautions than what most other folks are doing at the moment, especially with the governor kind of letting things open up. But
you don't want to screw this up and ruin it for everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing. And honestly, we're putting a cap lower than what the governor has for our capacity, and we've got masks we're going to provide to everybody,
nice.
everybody will get a tasting glass that they can't use. They can carry it around, and then we'll be serving individually out of plastic cups as they come up.
They can
to make
just pour
sure,
it in.
yeah, everybody's being safe there. And so we've got hand sanitizer set up everywhere. We've got a lot going on. We've got a Tums booth that we're going to set up. So with all that lactic acid, everybody's going to be taking
I
in.
saw that got me because I like a good sour, but I can't get like 3 or 4 deep in without having a little indigestion. I have a really hard time with wine. I do enjoy a good wine, but the tannins always give me the heartburn and indigestion. And I love sours, but I'll muscle my way through a sour in order to enjoy it. That post I saw it was like a taco glass filled with Tums, and I went, "This is great."
Yeah, hey, we had some people asking, or making comments online, and so the marketing manager was like, "We should really do this," and I said, "I agree." And so we actually, I bought the Tums today, and we were gonna get the little like chalky ones, but Tums has this new like Starburst kind of looking fruity candy one, and so we bought a ton of those. Yeah, individually wrapped like Starburst looking Tums, and so I'm actually excited to try them out.
Yeah, pop them like Skittles. That's great.
Yeah, man, yeah.
Well, listen, what goes better with a good sour than a nice little Starburst of flavor?
Exactly.
That could be another beer coming up.
Flavored.
You got to run it through a Randall or something like that. A sour through a Randall of Tums. That's something Carton Brewing would do. We'll leave it to them. Let them take care of that.
Would be interesting.
Augie.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about the brewery, because just to give people the picture, I know you mentioned you had this huge open space. So I'll give you my background and how I kind of stumbled upon you guys, and that's literally what had happened. We stumbled upon you. And then you can go ahead and fill in all the gaps. So I was down with my family in Virginia and Williamsburg doing the Williamsburg thing. And we decided one of the days of the 4 days we were down there to just take a little trip. We were going to probably try to head to Newport News. We didn't end up that far, obviously. So we got down to the shore. We saw some battleships. We saw some stuff in the harbor, some, I guess, military ships being worked on. And then we started making our way, a bunch of places and just like aimlessly going to places that would have water, because we just wanted to go to a beach without going all the way down to Virginia Beach. And we ended up seeing something on the map about Fort Monroe. And I said, oh, that's cool. It's an open, state park idea that you can just drive down, head on onto the beach. So we did that. But on our way into Fort Monroe and down to the beach area, we passed by your place. And at the time, it wasn't, I don't think, 100% open. It was like 11 a.m. or something like that. So when we passed, my wife went, oh, there's something that just kind of, we got to go check out what that was. Maybe it was a restaurant. We could have lunch. Okay, great. We spend some time on the beach. We do the loop around and come back. And all of a sudden, the closer we got, I see the word brewery. I went, bingo. It's 12 o'clock. Let me Google search them. And guess what opened at 12 o'clock? Ouzel Finch. And we were the first ones in there. Pulled right in.
Sweet.
I forget the bartender's name. I apologize. Younger kid. But he was great. He, kind of walked me through a little bit of the menu, told us a little bit about what the brewery's all about. Rachel, I'm not sure if I met you, but I met another brewer who was peeling vanilla beans that day. And I just stopped from...
That's Bethany.
Oh, it's Bethany. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I kind of walked by her and I said, oh, this is awesome. You guys are like on an army base. Tell me a little bit about that. So she gave me some cool talking points we're going to hit tonight. And, the whole facility, I walked around a little bit, took some pictures, hung out outside, beautiful outside, like you said. So let's go backwards and tell us how this all became to be, especially where you have a brewery on a military base, pretty much.
Yeah. All right. Honestly, I was homebrewing at the time, and I was doing undercover narcotics here in Newport News. I was a detective there for a while, and
those things go hand in hand.
I was gonna say it's a natural progression, narcotics and then beer.
Honestly, it was one of those situations where, I went through a really crazy situation that was just. To me, I was like, this is not worth it anymore. And so my wife and I were sitting there literally in the moment of this craziness. And I was like, I'm done. It's not worth it. I'm not going through this again. Let's figure out what we're going to do. And she's like, I said, I've always wanted to open a business. what are we going to do? And she said, well, what are you thinking? And I said, well, I'm passionate about police work and beer. And she was like, well, let's do beer. And that's honestly
hard to open a business
literally,
with police work unless
Did
you're
you,
gonna be like
did
a
you think
security
about
firm.
starting your own police department? Was that
Oh,
hard to
gosh.
get down to that discussion?
Man, I tell you what, with the climate right now, I don't think that would be a good
I don't
idea
know,
for
that's-
anybody.
I don't know if that's a profit center these days.
So I'm so glad I got out of it. But,
I mean, without prying too much, Russ, was it something that was life threatening and it would just kind of change your mind about everything, or what was? I mean, you could be general.
Yeah.
You don't have to be specific.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was life threatening, and it was something. I called my wife from the ambulance, told her bye, and then it was one of those things that when I got to the hospital and I made it, I was like,
Hold on, don't continue your thing because my camera paused.
We're
and
frozen.
It's frozen
It's
on me.
Oh God, yeah, that was an awkward moment for you.
Yeah,
to be smiling.
exactly. It was frozen on me smiling.
I was gonna say, you look so good though. You
No,
froze a
no,
good
no,
moment.
that was bad. My camera froze for a second. I went, no, I'm frozen like this as you're talking about like a terrible
Let
moment.
me tell you about the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was unintended
No,
for
you're
sure.
good, dude. No worries. I'll just drink some more.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, listen, I'm glad that you
Oh,
pulled out of that.
failed.
And to be honest with you, I think a lot of people are very glad you ended up brewing because,
Yeah.
like I said, I enjoyed myself that day. So how'd you come to be at Fort Monroe? I mean, that's got to be this crazy, like, lucky thing because there's not too many buildings around there ready for commercial
Yeah.
space.
I mean, honestly, I love the place out here. The fort is always. I was in the military before I was a cop, and so I spent some time coming out here. And my wife and I had spent a lot of time out here on the beach. And but it's they had just decommissioned the base, and I knew it had been decommissioned. And my wife's father was best friends with the person who honestly still runs the entire base, and he hooked us up. And
Wow.
I pitched the idea of a brewery, and I mean, literally, it was like 2 or 3 days after I went through this shooting. We were here walking around and looking at places and picking out what was going to happen. And they committed to us right then that, you're going to be our brewery. Let's make it happen. And, we kind of got to a point to where we sold so many shirts and started such a big following online that it was like, if I don't do this, people are going to be pissed. And so we did it. And, I mean, honestly, over the years, we've kind of, developed, who we are. And, about 3.5-4 years ago, we decided, that we, Rachel was a part of this meeting back then. She was not head brewer at the time, but we had a bunch of us that got together and said, okay, what do you like about beer and what's our focus going to be? And at the time, everybody's doing hazies. And so, of course, I was on the haze train myself and was like, this could be our focus. Yeah. But then honestly, it was one of those things of like, the brewer at the time didn't agree. Rachel didn't agree. Some of the other folks that were here didn't agree. And the one thing that we all absolutely loved were sours. And we knew that we could do it better than most folks, and that we understood, kind of the microbiology piece and better than most other breweries do. And so we chose that as our path, and we never looked back. And honestly, I can. We've slowly stepped up our game over the course of the last couple of years, but what Rachel's been able to do in the last year for us has been insane and amazing. And so here we are doing sours, and Rachel, of course, she's drinking a lager right now, as you can see. That's her choice liquid. So I cracked the Czech pale lager. Czech pale.
Yeah.
I think we all
The
did.
lager,
Here,
yes,
sir.
the Czech.
Yeah.
Delicious, by the way.
Beer
And-
flavored beer, love it.
I love
How about
it.
I mean, you guys, I had a hazy when I was there, so don't downplay it. You guys made a delicious hazy. I took a crowler home, enjoyed the hell out of that when we got back here. Had, I think, 2 different IPAs there. You can still knock those out of the park, but I think, like you said, you're going to be known for these sours, especially now heading up the Sour Fest with all these breweries and getting your name on the map that way. Rachel, so you kind of stepped in here, as Russ was saying, and kind of took over the reins. What was the conscious effort here for the sour program?
Oh, goodness. Honestly, the original head brewer had really started it. And I learned a lot of what I know now about brewing and about sour beers as a result of him and just studying under him for a year and a half or 2 years, I think it was. So he really started the barrel aged program, and then we, of course, do live sour beers. So unlike most other breweries who sour their beer, we don't kettle sour, so we don't kill off any of our bacteria. So it kind of gives a little bit more of a complexity to the beer, and we use PDO and lacto instead of just lacto. And just from the time that he left, we've kind of been developing flavors a lot more, and just kind of running with that, because we have a lot of the microbiology down as far as the bugs and critters that live in our beer.
I want to get into those complex things, because that was the first thing that caught me. Was the sour that we got that day we went down was a chili, lime, guava. It was a really complex beer because it had still specks of the chili in there. It still had some natural ingredients, and that's really what did it. It really added that, flavor profile. It wasn't over sour. It wasn't hot and spicy. It wasn't super sweet. It was a great balance. So did the head brewer that was there prior, did he move on to another brewery, or was he someone that just kind of shied away from the brewery, or what happened there?
Him and his wife had always dreamed about moving to the Midwest. So when he originally started as head brewer with us, from what I understand, Russ, he essentially signed on as like, I'm going to be with you for about a year, 2 years max, and kind of get the sour program started for you guys. And then I'm going to move out to the Midwest. So he works for Raleigh Farmhouse Ales now.
Oh, yeah, I know that. Well, yeah, I've seen it on Instagram.
Yeah, it's killing it out there. I think he's super happy, and that's the area they've always wanted to be in. So,
yeah, very cool. I mean, like I said, what he probably set up for you and then just kind of left in your hands. You really ran with all these complex flavors. The one that you sent us, the chocolate sour. I'm so interested to taste this. I gotta like clean my palate here, so I'm starting with the lager, and then I'll go a little more complex. The list of things in this. And then it's a sour and not like a stout where you can just throw everything in the kitchen sink in there, is going to be awesome. So I'm excited to try that. I want to really quickly go back on the brewery being at a site of a military base. What were the benefits that came with being on this base? From what I heard from Bethany was there was some really like, wow, really? You don't have to do that? Give us a little explanation of some of the benefits that the base brings.
I mean, honestly, it could be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. For us, I think, the base is protected now. It's a national and state park. And so, nobody's ever going to come in here and put up a bunch of, craziness. You'll never see this piece of land ever, taken advantage of and left to kind of just go, to rot. And so, driving on the base, Hampton Roads kind of has pockets of just whether it's very populated or, the neighborhoods are just so diverse. And when you come onto this base, it's almost like I grew up in East Tennessee, really small town. And so for me, it's just like that small town feel. Yeah. And it's a protected small town feel. Still very diverse on the base, but also just a small community of folks. And not only that, I mean, the history here, there's so much history. One of the first things Rachel did when she came on as she came in as a chemist or getting her chemistry degree in college. And I asked her to work the bar for a while to show me she wanted to be here, and she did. And then as things progressed, she went from doing that to being our lab tech, from being our lab tech to our assistant brewer, and from our assistant brewer to now our head brewer. And so one of the first really cool things that she did, she came in and we went over to the museum and we pulled out this Civil War era dining room Tiffany & Co. dinner chest that the general from the Civil War that was stationed here at Fort Monroe used to take on with him on the campaign trail. It'd been behind glass for I mean, longer than I've been alive, times 2 probably, and maybe longer. So, but Rachel pulled it out and swabbed it, and was able. I think she did 20-something swabs and pulled one swab that had viable yeast on it.
Wow!
And she was so she cultured that up, and we have our own proprietary yeast strain that she cultured from a Civil War era artifact out of the museum here. And
Good Lord.
I want to
so-
introduce you to one of our local brewers, Jamie at St. James. Jamie at St. James here on Long Island actually dives to shipwrecks and finds old bottles, and he cultivates yeast off this. I'll send you a link to the Ouzelfinch Instagram to show you some of the stuff he's done. Same concept.
That's amazing.
It's equally as amazing to
That
find.
Descent, right?
Yeah, deep ascent. But I say equally as amazing as finding a culture on a Civil War chest.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes a lot of biology. Rachel, give us your
thinks
background.
to
You
do
said
that?
right. How'd you even know where to find the yeast? Where is it hiding? Where are you? Is it on someone's chewed gum that they put under the desk?
Yeah, it's everywhere. That's the cool thing about it. And when I joined on, like Russ said, I was bartending part-time and also getting through school, and then learning a little bit about the microbiology behind it, because I studied chemistry in college. And with my chemistry major at my school, I wasn't required to take any biology classes. So I really didn't have a good understanding of that side of the science behind beer. But as I went through my senior year, I started studying it more. And when I graduated and started full time with Ouzelfinch, I was like, I really want to do this. I know, well, there's probably like a 75% chance we'll be able to find something that was either dormant and we can revive back to life, or something that's just kind of been living there for that long. So
That's crazy.
I was very lucky. They were always very open to giving me the things I needed to do my projects. So
What else are they going to let you have? Here's a Civil War musket. We got to find some. I mean, that would be great. I'm going to take a trip to the museum and find some yeast for our next brew. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun, man. They honestly, at the beginning, I didn't think they were going to let us do it. I'd been talking about trying to do something like that for a while, and then the curator called me and was like, "Hey, you still want to do it?" And I'm like, "Of course we want to do it." And Rachel was brand new to the lab, and she was up for the challenge, man. And I know she plated every one of the things that she pulled off that chest, and mostly mold ray and mold.
Yeah,
and,
it's just mostly useless. We got one strain back that I wasn't sure what it was at first. We use an auger that's differential, so it'll show you different types of growth on the plate for different bacteria strains or wild yeast strains. But only one really popped up that was yeast. So we pulled that off and sent it out, and had a local yeast place study it, and they said that it's just a wild Brett strain.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Was there any concern there was going to be a moment like out of the movie Aliens where you'd revive something
You brought something back.
and it would wreak horror on Fort Myers? Was that ever a concern?
Fort Monroe. Fort Monroe, Peter.
So I can't lie to you. I've never seen that movie. I don't know what that's
That's probably for the best.
It's a running joke in the brewery that Rachel hasn't seen most of the movies that we've seen, because she's like 25, and we're all some of us are a little older than that. So
Yeah, but I mean, she's been too busy hitting the books. She's done exactly what I would want my daughter to do.
Yeah, clearly.
And that is 100%. The only thing I'd have an issue with right off
what
the
an
bat.
awesome job though to have at 25, being
Right?
fucking head brewer. That's
she was head brewer at you were head brewer at 23, I think.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fucking
initially,
cool.
as a parent, I'd go, that's what you want to do with the $100,000 debt you have to college? Is that really going to pay the bills? Or
I know how cool brewing is.
Yeah.
But swabbing Civil War plates and shit, I find that even more interesting.
Hell yeah. I think as a parent, I'd have to really sit down for the discussion of what exactly are your intentions on where you're going with this. But you know what?
Well,
obviously you
Rachel's
have proven yourself at this point. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's a story to tell.
Rachel's dad's one of our distributors, so I think he's all about it.
Well, then
my
game
mom
on.
not so much.
Okay. Yeah. She probably yells at your dad, "You're the one that got her into this." You see
Exactly.
that? I know how that dynamic works. Are you kidding me? She's there at the brewery every day, $300,000 in debt, and this is what she does. Well, listen, to mom and dad Rachel, she's doing great. So just leave her alone. Let her do her thing. She's going to pull this out and make it happen. I want to talk about, because one of the things that Bethany brought up was waste management at the brewery. And because it was a state or national park or land, how that's all managed. Give us a little background on that.
Yeah.
Man, sorry, go ahead. Go for it, Rachel. It's all you.
Oh, okay. So we go through a waste management program called HRSD, and they essentially just strictly enforce rules and regulations on how we dump any of our chemical wastewater or even beer, because essentially anything with a pH lower than 5.5 or higher than 12.5 is harmful to the environment. And all of the wastewater from our facility goes out to one drain that drains into the water that surrounds our area. So they're very strict on, we have to neutralize and bring the pH within that range every time we dump anything. Okay. So even beer.
You put it into a storage tank first and then neutralize it?
Yep.
We have something similar here on Long Island. We have many breweries that have to, any wastewater that comes out has to go into a tank first, and then it'll either get trickle fed back in with fresh water, or same thing, some chemicals will be added to neutralize or bring the pH up, or whatever they deem fit for the groundwater.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, I found that because I asked, I think, about sewers on the island, because it is kind of an island. You're crossing a bridge to get over to it, and there are no sewers. So everything would either have to go into the water, or it would have to end up being transported by truck out. So that was an interesting kind of subplot here of what I was trying to find out about the brewery.
Yeah, we do have a sewer, and I say this cautiously. The sewer system here was, it was put in place when, it was copper or I don't even know what it was that they put in all the pipes back then. But literally, excuse me, I live here on the fort as well, and so we'll turn our water on at home, and you got to let it run for a little bit, otherwise you get a little brown coming out of the water. And so it really is a sensitive thing here on the base, just because it's now protected. There's no really revitalizing those things without a major cost involved, and so they are maintaining it as well as they can. And so for us to take a 70-year-old system and throw really low or high pH liquid through there, it's going to do a lot more damage than what you're going to see out in town. And so but yeah, they're strict on overall in Hampton Roads period, because everything is historic out here. But here on this base, the base is a 300-year-old fort that has more history than a ton of history. So
have you seen ghosts?
Yeah. Funny story.
What'd you
yes.
say? Wait, what'd you say, Steve? I didn't catch this question.
I said, have you seen any ghosts?
Yeah, I'm assuming there has to be some sort of paranormal activity there.
I watched a horror movie the other night. Can we skip this subject?
No, Pete, deal with it. You're a man, Pete.
Hey,
not when I'm watching horror movies.
I know.
No,
I'm an 8-year-old child. I'm very fragile. Thank you.
We did have ghost hunters come out here about 2 years ago.
Get out of here!
And,
wow.
Yeah, no, they walked the brewery. They did my house too, and they found like 3. Apparently, there's 3 ghosts that live in the brewery, and so we're.
What are their names? What did they tell you their names?
Mole, Larry, and Curly.
Yeah.
Not being
from Cheers.
Joe and Fred.
Yeah, I think all the guys that were a part of it there, I think there were probably 4 or 5 guys and 1 or 2 girls that were a part of this team, and they were awesome, and they were coming up with all this really cool stuff. Then they brought in a medium, and the medium was like, saying stuff like, well, I think his name's John, and his name's Luke, and his name is Peter. And so, you know, it is we go with it, and we have had situations here. You know, we've got it on video where two things on video. One where something slapped the lights that were hanging on the ceiling here, and there's nothing. I mean, it was slapped so hard, there's no way anything else could have done it, and all the people were on camera at the time. So we've got that on video. It's pretty creepy, and then. Our
I'd be gone. That's it. I slapped the fucking for sale sign on the business so quick.
Yeah, the craziest one I think that we've seen
Oh, and
is
that's the crazy one.
no. Well, so we've got all these cameras all over the brewery, and one night the staff, they were all here cleaning up, and you hear it clear as day. Our manager, or our taproom manager, his name's Paul. And you hear something come across the camera. It says, Paul, 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 3 times, clear as day. And he even is in the back, and he's like, yeah, who called? Yeah. And he's like walking through the brewery trying to figure it out. And we thought it was one of the workers messing with him. We went back and watched the camera, and you can hear it on all the cameras. There were 2 people sitting inside. We were closing at the time, so we had 2 people sitting inside. They didn't say it. And then the 3 workers that were here were all on camera, and they didn't. You can see their mouths not move, but it's clear as day, says Paul. He answers it and then accuses one of the bartenders of messing with him. But yeah, so we've got some stuff that goes on here. I'm not sure how I feel about it. But,
so imagine coming into a double brew day shift at like 3-4 in the morning.
Fuck that. No.
Not good. You
Just,
put the blinders on and
yes.
just like work.
headphones in, sunglasses on. You know. So when you drive around the base, there's a bunch of old bunkers that are abandoned and you can't get in. They're kind of closed up, but those were where I guess the guns used to be to protect the base. So you know there's a ton of old history there, and even if I recall, one of the crowlers that I got had I think it was an old map of the area as the label. Yes, Russ, you might actually have it because I'm assuming you use it a bunch. That's the one.
Cool.
Look at that.
Oh,
how cool is that?
Well,
Well, you got it. But that's the one. Yeah. So they used it as a label for their crowlers,
cool.
and it was really very cool. And
Yeah.
I was sitting there just looking at it the whole. I actually might have saved it. I have it somewhere here. I'd
So
be silly not to save it.
We bought that digital copy for like $20, and then somebody hit us up at the brewery like a month ago and said, "Hey, you want the original?" And we're yeah, we want the original. Yeah. So he brought it by with a frame and everything, gave it to us. We bought it off of him, but yeah, it was pretty cool. 1933 map here.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And those are usually hand drawn. There was no digital photoshopping going on then.
Yeah. No, 100%.
That's really cool. I mean, the history of the island and everything that goes on there, it's got to be kind of almost enriching to have everything there for you, and to be able to I guess highlight that through the brewery and bring it back to life. And I think probably your ghosts are appreciating the revitalization of the history.
The staff makes fun of me because I could go on forever and ever and ever about the history of this place because it really is so amazing. But I will tell you one thing really quickly, as fast as I possibly can. But
no, take your time. We have all the time in the world. I want to hear history.
Hey,
I like history.
Watch Rachel. She's gonna have a beer gone in like 2 minutes because I'm telling this story. The coolest thing, one of the coolest things about Fort Monroe, and a lot of things that folks don't know about this place is it really was the start of one of the most horrific things that our country has known and seen, and especially a really hot topic justice issue today, but also it was the beginning to the end of that as well. And so our island is super small. I mean, you're talking, a mile long if you're lucky. I'm not sure how long it actually is, but probably a mile at most. And but when the first Africans were brought to the United States against their will, the first Africans ever brought to the U.S. as slaves stepped foot onto Fort Monroe soil on the beach out front.
Really?
And then,
wow.
And then the general who Rachel pulled the yeast off the chest in the Casemate Museum, General Butler, He was the general that made a decision during the Civil War called the Contraband Decision, which basically there were 3 slaves that escaped from Sewell's Point across the bay, came over on a raft on Fort Monroe, and the Confederacy basically said, it's federal law, you got to give us our slaves back. This general said, you succeeded from the Union, you're no longer bound by federal law, we don't have to give you anything, and said that these people are now contraband of war. Not a great solution, obviously. Fast forward to where we are now, and there's been major steps and still major steps being done. But at the time, it really was the first moment in which it kind of started the whole process that ended in the Emancipation Proclamation. And Fort Monroe was, after that decision was made, where freed slaves where escaped slaves from the South could become contraband of war here on Fort Monroe. It started a movement to Fort Monroe, and there were over 10,000 slaves that had made their way through the Underground Railroad to Fort Monroe, and it was called Freedom Fortress. And so to know that something so horrific and really devastating to so many people's lives started on the soil here on the beach, and then a couple hundred years later, the beginning to the end started on that very same beach, which is less than a mile long, like literally every time I talk about it, it gives me chills. And
that's freaking cool.
And so it's just a cool little thing. Harriet Tubman was a nurse out here for the Underground Railroad. Yeah. So all kinds of history out here, bad and good. After the Civil War, Jefferson Davis was imprisoned out here. In the casemate walls where you walked and you said where the guns and stuff were. Yeah. He was imprisoned inside the walls there. And so a lot of really cool history that comes along with this place. But just that connection, is cool. And, stories that we wanted to tell when we started here, and that was kind of our goal, and was not only showing appreciation for people, appreciation for beer, but also that appreciation for history and our local community.
Now, speaking of the story, you have a fairly lengthy story about what Ouzelfinch is, because it does mean something. And my wife sat there outside the building and read the whole thing. I was too busy pounding delicious beer. But she took a picture of it, and I read it later. It's pretty cool. So tell everybody about the background of what Ouzelfinch is.
Yeah, so again, long story short, hopefully short. Ouzelfinch it was at the time a secret society here on the base back in the early 1900s. 1905, there was a drunk officer that walked outside the officers' club, which was in the same casemate walls that Jefferson Davis was imprisoned in, and so he walks outside, sees this bird, no feathers. Flew backwards at Mach speeds, red bloodshot eyes, no eyelids, long giraffe-like neck. And so he explains it to everybody. And he was a storyteller. His grandfather was a storyteller. And so, obviously probably wasn't true. But hi, Bubbles. My kids are out here now.
They heard Ouzelfinch. They know what to say.
Yeah. So we changed our name to Ouzelfinch Beers and Blending, and my oldest son, he couldn't say craft. He says crap. So when he says, we used to be Ouzelfinch Craft Brewery, and he's still to this day, he's like, I'm going to Ouzelfinch Craft Brewery.
He's a harsh critic.
Yeah. But it makes him be better. It makes Russ be a better brewer.
I got a love note. So
that's so nice. The kids are the best.
I know, they're great. I don't remember where I was at.
Well, Ouzelfinch, right? Just the drunk bird outside with no feathers.
Drunk bird. So, anyways, it became a joke in the officers' club. The officers' club then kind of took it in as a mascot. Some officer's wife found a statue out in town, a small little figurine that looked like what this officer had been talking about for a few years.
Really?
They bought it, brought it in, put it in a glass case on the bar. They had all these weird customs, like if you wanted to take the shortcut through the bar, you had to buy the Ouzelfinch of beer. And then it literally like turned into this secret society called the Order of the Ouzelfinch. And they were committed to 3 things, which was drinking, gambling, and roasting each other, which we thought were pretty appropriate.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then they had their own coat of arms and everything. On the bottom of the coat of arms in Latin, it means what the hell do we care? And so it was
I like
just
that.
a fun little organization. But they kept it, or they took it really serious. There's like hidden ouzel finches in the building, ironworks around the base and stuff like that. And so it was a serious thing up until the 50s, and we were researching the base, figured out about it. Looked up the bird, and it looked stupid and crazy, and we thought that's a hell of a mascot. And we had an attorney research it for us, and there were no trademarks on it. And,
I wonder why not.
Yeah, and there are now.
Yeah, there you go. Got it.
But anyways,
I mean,
it's
not the prettiest of birds, but it's a great standout brand for sure. And I think that's with the huge 6-foot ouzel finch bird you have in the brewery, very photographic. It definitely stands out. And again, you use it in silhouette form here on a lot of your beer cans. I want to talk to you about all the artwork and everything on here. But Steve, before we get a little more tipsy, because I'm cranking into this hazy, and it's delicious, but I want to get you your very well dues with your questions, because we have a brand new jingle for Steve's 3 questions, and it's the grand debut, we'll call it. All right, so here it is.
Hey, you cool hep cats. Tonight, we bring you a very special presentation. 3 questions with our very own Steve Pominski. Yeah. Steve's questions. 3 questions from Steve. 3 questions. Steve's questions go.
And there you
Love
go.
Right.
Fucking great jingle.
Great jingle.
Okay. All right. So I ask all the brewers that come on, owners, these 3 questions. I used to give them all 3 at once, and with all the drinking going on, you usually forget the first, second, and third, and
Forget them all.
So the first question, and Rachel won't understand this, but is what is your quest?
Yeah, she pop culture
Is it
references.
Old movie.
Is it Princess Bride?
Oh, that's not a bad guess. Not a bad guess.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
What is the average airspeed velocity of a laden swallow?
Yes. African.
No, those are not the questions. Those are the warm-ups.
Okay.
So, question number 1. What was that first beer, that craft beer, if you want to call it, that opened your eyes to what was out there other than Bud, Coors, and that stuff?
Rachel, we'll start with you on that one.
You said, "Oh man, I got to know what craft beers are about."
Okay. So my story is a little different because my dad has worked in distributors my whole life. But he started off with Anheuser-Busch when I was old enough for him to, hand me some beers in the garage every once in a while. And
Two?
that was straight Bud Light. And then he started working for Hop and Wine. And the first craft beer I had where I was like, this is really good, and I could get into this was Dogfish 60 Minutes.
It's Mike's go-to.
That's my go-to.
Is it?
Let's see. What do I have here? I don't know. I have so many Dogfish things. Oh, it's over on the wall. It's on pins. I can't do it. Sorry. Yes, I love me some Dogfish.
I would drink IPAs exclusively for a few years after that until, in college I would drink Land Shark and basically any cheap beer I could get my hands on.
Here you go, Rachel.
Ooh.
As one does in college. Yeah.
There's a 120. I've been aging this for 3 years. This is a 120. Ooh,
oh, really?
Yeah.
What year is it from?
3 years. It's probably more than that now. It's probably 4 years at this point. So we're talking 2017. There's some sediment in there. It's gonna open probably well beyond 12-15%. I'm gonna say it's gonna be probably like a barley wine by the time I open this thing.
I was just over at Dogfish Head about a month ago, and I purchased a 2014 120.
Nice.
Nice.
I wish I had a date
So-
on this because I really don't honestly
Wait for
remember.
wait for us to kind of get together so we could crack it. And
Oh, we'll do it both. We'll do a comparison, mine versus yours.
So
Uh,
I'll tell you a story about how spoiled I am in the beer industry. Because my dad took us, like me and my whole family, about 4 years ago, to Dogfish Head, like the original one. And he knew one of the managers that worked there. So they fed us all this huge lunch, and then they let us walk away with like a 6-pack of 2007 120. And we cracked it open that night, and I couldn't drink it.
Oh,
I couldn't.
That's a tough one. If it was
Tough.
so 5 years ago would have made it what 17, 16? So it was already 9 years old. That's tough. Even I will have to have like a little sipper of that. It's not something you can really drink.
Yeah,
Like,
I for sure wouldn't have. No.
oh, but it's one of those things where you do it for the nostalgia, not so much for the
exactly.
drinkability at that point.
Yes, 100%.
That's got to be
never
great
would've
though to
opened
have a father though as a distributor that kind of has the connections. You can kind of get in wherever the distribution goes and get that behind the scenes. That's awesome. I was thinking you were gonna say like I had dinner over at Sam's house. Like,
Oh no.
yeah, I just
No,
sat
not
down with the
that.
whole Calgione family and just drank and had shot the shit. Yeah, we actually brewed like a small batch of beer in his garage. It was all good.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. Either way, I mean,
Heck
we
yeah.
didn't really get the backstage view, but yeah, I mean, it's a very open brewery too, so it's a very cool place. Love that place.
Yeah.
Russ, how about you?
I have a couple different answers, I think, because they all kind of like just blend together back during that whole time. But Dogfish Head was one of my good favorites, and I brewed my first all grain recipe in the Dogfish Head pub parking lot with one of their brewers.
Really?
And so, yeah,
Get outta here.
Dude, I couldn't sleep, and I was on the internet at like 2 a.m. and I got this Mr. Beer kit, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want it. Yeah, so I did my Mr. Beer kit, and it tastes like garbage, and I'm like, I want to make real beer, so like let's see what to do. And I got on. Dogfish at the time was like major, and so I got on their website and just looking at some beers, and then it was like they literally had posted it probably right before I got on there, and it said first 10 people to sign up, and I signed me and my brother-in-law up.
Boom.
And we got on, and so that was where I learned how to brew all grain recipe there. And I also had some really weird dessert. What was it called?
The beer or the actual like physical dessert?
No, it was food. It was disgusting. It's like the insides of all the animals or whatever. What are they called?
probably like haggis.
Haggis? No, it's a
No.
monkey brain. What's the monkey brain one?
I don't know what it was like. I don't eat pork anymore because she gets mad about it. But yeah, it was like all the innards of whatever's left over. I wish I could remember the name of it. Scrapple.
Oh, Scrapple. Yeah, there you go. I was going to say sweetbread. Sweetbread was the other one I was thinking of.
Is that a Pittsburgh thing? Scrapple? That's a Pennsylvania thing. I feel like.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it
Yeah.
before in my life.
Yeah.
And I brewed my first all grain batch and ate Scrapple in the Dogfish parking lot. But anyways, back then, let's see. I mean, honestly, the ones that really changed my life, I think, was Green Flash West Coast, which very quickly turned into Green Flash Pallet Wrecker, which I never put down Pallet Wrecker. My go-to back then though was Southern Tier 2-time IPA.
Oh yeah, classic.
Which was phenomenal, and their pumpkin was the first thing where I kind of drank something that was odd, and I was like, "This is really damn good." And so I would, if I had to pick a brewery that kind of changed my world, it was probably Southern Tier and Dogfish Head both. Yeah.
Nice. Those are good ones. Steve, question number 2.
Question number 2, and this one's kind of easy for some people, but what is your favorite style?
Ooh. Well, I can almost guess. Is it Rachel's? It's sour.
That's why she's got that smile on her face.
It's that good old Czech Bills.
Yeah.
Yes. My favorite style all time, like the beer I would go to drink at every brewery if they made it would be a Schwartz beer.
Ah,
dark
nice.
lagers.
And by the way, your Schwartz beer is
It's
fucking
very good.
delicious.
Thank you.
Delicious. That was
That
one
is
of the
an
ones I brought home.
underrepresented style.
Hell yeah. And we
Yes.
love our dark lagers. Love our dark
Yeah.
lagers. And that was the
Got
first
it.
thing I saw on there. I went, that's coming home with me. Pete will appreciate it. Steve will appreciate it because we don't get it as much here. We only have like 1 or 2 breweries around here that kind of make it on the regular. And they're
Yeah.
good, but you don't get that, variant of what other places can make. Delicious. Excellent beer, by the
Thank
way.
you. Thank
Love
you.
it.
God, what? Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Fuck yeah,
those,
Schwartz
and
beer.
then
Pete wants it
You
right
guys
now.
You guys are all her. You guys are all her new favorite people.
Oh, dude, the Schwartz, we love it. I think
love a Schwartz.
I might actually have the picture of it somewhere on our Instagram feed. If you go into our
That's awesome.
beers, it's definitely in there because I definitely posted that one because it was. I even sent it to these guys. Like, did you guys crack open those Schwartz beers yet? Because they were delicious.
It was good.
Yeah,
thank you.
but it's a great style to like. I agree with you, 100%. Russ, what about you?
Good Lord. So I'm the reason that we do a lot of the weird, crazy, heavily fruited kind of things. And so honestly, I mean, it sounds kind of fanboy and whatever, but I really honestly love some heavily fruited like pastry sours. And so
Ooh.
that's my thing right now. I've been on the kick for, a year or two now. So I think
So you don't like 450 North at all?
so you want to hear a cool story?
Wait. Does this end with any of those beers exploding at your brewery?
God, took the words right
I
out of
hope not.
I hope not. Because that is a tough style to keep in those cans in shipment. That's for sure.
Yeah, so my wife just opened her own distributorship literally a couple weeks ago, and so she brought in 450 North, and so we I can't say we, it's her thing 100% because Virginia does not allow breweries and distributors to mix, but
Sleep with them.
Yeah.
she ordered
To have children with them.
I was on edge for all last week because she ordered 2 pallets. I mean, like, is probably $18,000 worth of 450 North that came in on an unrefrigerated.
God, that's
Yeah.
all I know about that brewery is their fucking beers explode.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Well,
the only thing.
We spent
They make sour beer, slushy sour beers that
Gotta
are
be
famous
careful.
for fucking exploding.
Yeah.
They
we
make
we
balls.
had we've had some explode as well, but it doesn't go over like it does with them. So,
Yeah, exactly. You fly under the
we,
radar on that one.
but honestly, we paid extra money to get them to drive it overnight here, and they all arrived completely not even swollen. So I'm like, whoo,
Put it
in
right.
the
Put it right in the
cooler.
walk-in. Right in the walk-in. Get it in there.
They're in the walk-in. We're about to bring some 450 North to Virginia for the first time. So,
That's awesome.
and by we I mean her. And
Well, they're at Sourfest, right? So I'm assuming
They
you
are,
have to
yeah,
take
yeah,
in
yeah.
some just for Sourfest to
Yep.
get it out in the
Yeah.
boxes. And are they pouring as well live?
they are not coming down for it. We
Okay.
do have, I think, 16 or 17 breweries that are going to be here for it.
Cool.
They're not one of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
that's a tough trip from where they are to where you
Yeah,
are. But
yeah.
I would just have to take one of those cans and put it out on a rock in the sun,
and time it.
time it, and see
Just
how
a-
long it took before it took off into the stratosphere.
We've had some of those. So literally, one of the beers that I had this idea to do back at the end of last year was I was reading my son this Hungry Caterpillar book. Have you guys read the Hungry? Okay, so
sure.
yeah. So I had some staff members that never heard of Hungry Caterpillar, and I couldn't believe it. But
It's a new generation thing.
yeah, man. So we did this Hungry Caterpillar beer where we literally put everything the caterpillar ate into the beer, and we did it in the same proportions that the caterpillar ate it. And but the bad thing about that is when you use 4 drums of fruit in a 30-barrel batch, it and you're back sweetening it, everything likes to explode. And so we're trying our own pasteurization process. We thought we could save the money and make sorry, not we. It was a totally me thing. I'm not going to put this on Rachel.
Rachel's going, I completely said no 14 times, and you still went through with it.
She was like, that's going to add 6 hours to my day. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Can we try it before we spend $130,000 on a pasteurizer?
Jesus.
So, but, and honestly, we sent that beer out, and it started exploding on us. Exactly the same thing. And
we didn't even get to sending it out. The night after we canned it, the low fills were exploding everywhere.
Wow.
The low fills were.
So get this, Russ is like, let's try pasteurizing it in the can.
Okay.
How would one go
You're
about
going to tell this story? People are going to think we're
No.
such amateurs.
He's like, listen, just put the cans in a tank. We'll put some hot water in there. We'll pasteurize it. And I'm like, it's like 9 o'clock. I'm like, cool, got it, done. And then they all start exploding in the mash tun.
So I was doing research on like flash pasteurization, and
Okay.
they're like, oh, you can get it up to these temps, and I'm like, well, if it's a flash pasteurizer and it gets it up to those temps, it should be fine. So I told Rachel, I'm like, let's just throw in the mash and we'll turn the hot water on and soak it in hot water for however many minutes until we get the pasteurization units we need, and then we'll take them out. So I had something going on that night. I don't even remember what it was, but I walked in and she's standing there just furious, and there's beer cans popping out of the and I'm just like, oh man, I felt so bad. But
You
anyways,
almost lost the head brewer that night.
needless to say, the next day we ordered a pasteurizer,
Yes.
which we now own, and hopefully our cans won't explode anymore.
Well, I have an experience. My old brewery, we brewed a beer. It was a French toast stout
Ah, yes.
called Raiders of the Lost Dark. And
I heard it was a cool can.
this company orders like, a whole pallet of it, and we sell it to them, and they had it in the cooler for a little bit, and we same thing, back sweetened it, the whole works, and then they put it out right on the floor, right in the middle of the store. And probably about a week later, I get a call. You need to show up here right away. We got an issue. As I was walking in the door, I could hear, and all I could see was this puddle coming towards me down the aisleway out.
I can't tell you how familiar that sound has been the last year for us. You gotta tell this, Rachel. Tell the story about the raspberry drums.
Oh no.
So we started ordering fruit from this place. They don't pasteurize all their beer, like not all of their fruit is aseptic.
Mhm.
And they shipped us this drum or this pallet of fruit, and I was like, we're just gonna leave it in the back. Our cooler is completely full. I'd rather put my beer in the cooler than the fruit.
Oh boy.
My first mistake there. So essentially, we're all sitting in the office, minding our own business, and literally a gunshot sound goes off, and we're all like,
It's the ghost.
so we're like rooting through the brewery, like trying to figure out if it was multiple cans or if someone's hurt. And I go over to the pallet of fruit, and the top of the drum had like bulged out and like completely popped off.
Oh, did it break any of the clamps, any of the hardware?
It broke the clamp that was keeping the
no.
top on.
It wasn't any of our tanks. It was the actual drum that the fruit was delivered in.
That's
Gotcha.
a lot of pressure built up in that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
I mean,
opening that? You shouldn't have. Go ahead. If you
Yeah.
open that, it would
Oh my
explode on
God.
you.
It sounded like a bomb.
Oh my God.
And I told them, I said, drag those things. We got to get them in the cooler to cool the other two off before they explode. And then a couple days later, I went in there and drilled a hole in the side of them to let the air out. But then, we were like trying to figure out, actually, it's this beer right here, the raspberry cheesecake.
Ah, there you go.
And so literally, I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do with this. And I'm like, man, that's a lot of raspberry, 3 drums of raspberry that we're not going to be able to put in a beer now. And then I'm like, Rachel, let's just taste it. Before we got a pasteurizer, we were allowing it to fully attenuate anyway. So
Right.
whatever yeast was in there, we were utilizing, and it was going to take off. But so she came up after she opened them up, and we were getting ready to do the cheesecake additions, and she tried it, and she was like, I don't think it's that bad. And I tried it, and I'm like, honestly, that fruit was it was some of the best wild fermented stuff that I had tasted. It wasn't like I hate to even use this word, but there's a lot of wild fermented stuff that you taste and it's like fecally, which is just like absolutely disgusting. And so you didn't get that at all. It was a really clean like wild fermentation. And so I told Rachel, I was like, let's just tell them that we wild fermented the raspberry.
Turning lemons into lemonade.
Yeah. We made a cheesecake beer, but first we wild fermented the raspberries, and then we added it to the beer.
As one does.
As you should.
Of course.
I could only imagine it looking like the final scene in The Kingsman, where all their heads are popping off. Just all the cans are just. I see. I use the movie references you would get, Rachel. There you go.
Yeah.
I got that one.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes. I'm looking at movies 2000 and earlier, so we know you'll be able to see those.
No, it was funny that it was one of the first beers we put through the pasteurizer, so we knew it wasn't going to ferment out any more than it already had. And then we joked about it. I was like, I could put an extra $2 price point because this is really good wild beer. but of course we didn't do that. But it was interesting. We've had a lot of beers pop in the last year, and so it's and a lot of that's on me, and not her to do, but it was me trying to experiment with how far we could push the boundaries before we absolutely had to just spend the money to get the pasteurizer. So
you're giving Rachel a heart attack at such an early age.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
A lot of gray hair.
Like gray hair so early. Stevie, you got a question number 3 lined up there?
Question number 3.
Ooh.
You go out somewhere. What would be your go-to beer? Not one of the ones that you brew. But what would be that go-to beer you would be looking for? You're like, yeah, I want to have that right now.
All right. Well, I think I kind of said what mine would be earlier.
60 minutes all day.
Yeah?
I don't know.
No. Mine would be a Schwartz beer.
The Schwartz beer. Okay.
Is that what you're asking me, or are you saying like something that's going to be readily available?
Yeah, readily available. Like you go to a restaurant and
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean it's that go-to, and not obviously a lot of us do go to I go to a lot of restaurants that have craft beer, so I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But things that stand out, I guess.
So you guys are going to be a little ashamed. I honestly have to say I would order like a Modelo, a Special.
All right. No, not bad. I could
just easy.
Listen, to make you feel better, I actually served Corona Light this weekend, so don't feel so bad. A good Mexican lager here and there is a good time in the warm weather.
Yes.
Steve, which one is that? Did I give you? There it is.
Oh, is it Netfinch?
Yep.
Yes.
Is it the mulberry?
Yes.
That's
Is that
a fun one.
is that the sour?
It's not a sour. It's a cream.
Oh, the cream, right? Okay, good. I know. I was trying to portion them out equally, and I took an extra hazy. I want to get into these brewery styles. First, Russ, what's your go-to at this point?
Man. So, funny thing, and I was telling Rachel this probably Friday, I think we were talking, but I'm not a lager person, never have really been, and then we had people coming into the brewery asking if we made real beer, and Rachel was wanting to make a lager, so we made a series of lagers called Real Beer, and it was kind of a joke. But honestly, that's what I've been drinking a lot of, and she makes fun of me for it because she's been wanting to make them for a long time. I haven't really pulled the trigger or allowed her to pull the trigger on that, and now she's doing it, and I'm literally that's all I drink at the house
Real
now
beer.
is her lagers. So, but I would say my go-to recently, I don't go out often, especially during COVID, but I can tell you the beer other than ours that I've drank the most is kind of along the same lines of what Rachel was drinking, but I started drinking PBR a lot in the last year. And honest, I don't know what it is, but I just I never liked it before, and I like it now.
Silver medal winning beer.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's a brewer's beer. We'll say it that way because a lot of people love
I get I get the high ABV PBR though. I don't get
Don't
that.
mess around with that 4.9.
that lazy PBR.
Don't they
get the
make
good
a
stuff.
PBR coffee now?
Really?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Oh, I've not
I
seen
think
that.
they do.
I
Oh
think they
boy.
do.
Oh boy.
I've tried it.
Yeah.
I don't like coffee. It was good. It
That's awesome.
tastes like fucking chocolate milk.
Ah, sounds delicious.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Speaking of
Mike
chocolate
had,
milk.
Some guys had.
Oh yeah,
insisted-
Mike has it. All right, so I'll take a trip over there. See if I can pick that up and give it a little whirl.
He's like, this is what you pour. When you're at soccer practice at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
You have your Dunkin' Donut chocolate
Yeah,
glazed donut,
exactly.
and then you have your
Right.
PBR coffee.
Yes.
Rachel, I want to get into these styles. We'll start off what Russ was talking about with the lager. So we have the Czech Pale Lager. Give us a little breakdown of this. Give us a little bit of the not all the secrets, but a little bit of
I'm gonna go get a
the
beer.
grain.
I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
The grain profile, the hops, what goes into this to make it so crisp and clean and delicious.
Well, this is one of my favorite real beers to date, and we've done a couple of them,
Real
but
beer.
this one, I worked pretty hard on this one. It's 100% Czech ingredients, so everything from the grain bill to the hops to the yeast is all sourced from the Czech Republic, which is typical of Czech pale lagers.
Yep.
And I don't know, I wanted it to be lower in the ABV range. We typically make beers that are around like above 6%. And so I wanted this one to be kind of crushable for summer. So it's light bodied, a little bit sweet on the back end, but still crisp with the carbonation. So just overall, as the kids say it, crushable.
So when I saw Czech Pale, when I think pale, I do think a little more on the sweeter side with your pale ale. So is that kind of natural to the grain of the Czech native, I guess? Is that it also gives itself a little sweetness on the back end naturally?
Yeah, so a lot of those like Pilsner grains are highly fermentable. They have like a high diastatic power, which makes them pretty easy for the yeast to kind of chew on, but they have a residual sweetness still that keeps them from being fully attenuated to like a really dry kind of state.
Okay.
So it's pretty common. The Czech pale lager differentiates itself from some of the other Czech beers just in reference because there's like a SRM color scale and it'll go to a darker lager from the Czech Republic, and you're just introducing some darker malts to give it a little bit more sweetness and character there.
Yeah, it poured very clean, so I mean those probably balanced out. Flavor stayed, color kind of left.
Yeah, and so we don't have a filter, so none of our beers are filtered, which kind of creates a little bit more haze in our lagers than most other people have.
Okay.
We do biofine, so we lose a little bit of that. Like
Fisting.
Yeah, double fisting on the way in the door, huh?
I got two
Yeah.
of Rachel's newest loggers.
Oh, gee.
Oh.
Do you have a keg in your house?
Oh, I'm at work still.
Oh, I see. You just went out to the tap room and just pulled it. I didn't know that was the office. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean the Czech Pale is delicious. It's clean, it's crisp. It's like you said, it's not quite filtered, but you don't get that overly haze to it. So well done there for sure. The one that I mentioned before, and the one I'm drinking right now. So this thing is crazy. All right, this is one of the ones that I was very interested. This is the Smashmallow, Smashmallow. It's like marshmallow, right? That's my New York accent coming through. Hazy IPA with mango, chocolate, liquid coconut, marshmallow, vanilla, and lactose. Break that down besides what I just gave you, because there's something going on here that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, so this was one of, I'd say this is probably one of Russ's areas of expertise. He really wanted to do like a milkshake style hazy IPA. So kind of keep the hop profile, but accentuate it with fruits and sweeten it up with marshmallows, and just make it this like fruit bomb of a hazy IPA. So I don't know if he wants to talk a little bit more about, how he came up with that one.
The ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Everything we have in the brewery left over. Let's just throw it in this with some lactose. Listen, Russ, before you begin,
yeah.
I this is true. I'm not a big milkshake IPA fan. We have a couple local breweries that do it. I've tried them all. I'm not a huge fan. This one has something to it, though. There's something there that kind of spins off that rudimentary milkshake IPA. I can't put my finger on it. It's almost like there's a bite to it. Not a spice, but almost something there on a mouthfeel level. I don't know what it is, but it keeps you interested in it.
It's called real ingredients. So we no, honestly, we with our we've been tweaking that one for a couple months now, and it literally, as Rachel said, we wanted fruit that would complement the hop profiles that she was putting into it, but also my goal was to just. We did the first one and people were like, I don't taste marshmallow. And, you got a little bit of marshmallow, but it wasn't like slamming. And so, we then switched over to try marshmallow fluff, which we didn't realize at the time that marshmallow fluff doesn't have the same ingredients as real marshmallows. So you're not getting the same flavor. So the second one came out and folks are like, we're still not getting marshmallow. And so I literally was like, F this. And I drive like this little Subaru, what's it called? Crosstrek. And I drove to Virginia Beach and all the way back and bought as many marshmallows as I could at every store. And I think we ended up with a little over, what was it, Ray? Like 300, 400 pounds of marshmallows.
Oh my God.
And,
well, we put in 600 pounds now. So
yeah.
So
Yeah.
where does it go in? Hot side, cold side?
It goes in on the hot. Well, so basically, we've kind of we have the pasteurizer now, so the pasteurizer we don't have to worry about. But beforehand, that was the first. I think that's the first Smashmallow we've pasteurized is the one you have there. But before that, we were taking it back to the kettle, heating it up to 160. So the alcohol didn't boil away, but we could hold it at 160 for so long, you'd get the pasteurization units that you needed, and then you theoretically could push it back into the tank. And shit shouldn't explode because it has all the pasteurization units that you need. Well, that wasn't the case. Honestly, because of the amount of crap we've put in that, or I've had Rachel put in that, we've had a lot of them explode until we got a pasteurizer. But what we learned is through that process is that you can kind of modify it a little bit more for our ingredients. And so that's one of the few beers where we're kind of testing heating the fruit as well as heating the marshmallows at the same time. And so instead of doing our additions into the tank, and a lot of people do additions into the tank with most of their ingredients, we're taking it from the tank post-fermentation back into the kettle. We're heating it up and adding our marshmallow and fruit, allowing the fruit to heat as well as the marshmallows to melt into solution, and then we're pushing it through the pasteurizer from there. And so that's one of the reasons we're able to cram so much marshmallow into that. The mouthfeel you're getting is partly the massive amount of fruit that we put in there, but it's also paired with the massive amount of marshmallow. And I mean, that beer is stupid when it comes to head retention and all that, because that marshmallow will literally hold everything together, and it's a beast on our pasteurizer. But
have you had any issues with the gelatin in that's it's one of the ingredients of marshmallow is gelatin. Have you had any issues with that?
No, not really. Honestly, I think we did a Peeps Smashmallow for Easter, and we used we used 42,000 blue Peeps, or 32,000 blue Peeps, or something like that. It equaled 4.5 blue Peeps per can. And
Jesus.
the one thing I will tell you,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I
was so.
like watching Rachel's reactions to these things. She's just like,
You know why?
What this guy puts me through.
This is our daily conversation. Is at heart, Rachel is a traditional brewer, and then there's like, I'm that
really
devil.
not though. You say that. I just don't want to throw 42,000 peeps in a beer. Like, you're
It's
saying
one
I'm
or
a
the other.
traditional brewer, but that's not.
There's no
gap
gray
there.
area in the middle.
Right.
It is
Well, yeah,
fucking
I'm that.
peeps, 5 peeps in a can, or Reinheitsgebot.
Wait,
There's no-
I want to get to the bottom of
Right.
this. Rachel, do you have to unpack each one of those 3 packs of peeps?
Don't ask her that. Don't ask.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Steve has a similar thing.
This is a sore subject.
Oh God.
Steve has a very similar story where he was using Snickers in his beer for yada yada yada, and had to unpackage all of the Snickers. How many
There was a
pounds
reason
did
you were buying like the fun
I was
size ones, wasn't there?
the little mini size ones that you get like
During
right
Halloween.
around Halloween
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
They would go on sale, and we would buy all the. But you have to unwrap every single one of them, and then chop them up. And
I have a story for you on that note.
Oh,
Our
no.
brewer. So the first, one of the first really crazy stouts we did a couple years ago, right before the other brewer left and Rachel took over, was a really cool idea, but it was like all these what was it, Ray? Like butterscotch candies or whatever.
Worth is
and-
original.
Yeah, so he ordered 300 pounds of what was supposed to be unwrapped little candies.
Oh,
And
no.
Whoops.
they showed up wrapped, and to the point to where I started doing them, and I was sitting on the floor back here with a pair of scissors and a bucket, and I'd cut
Yep.
the top off, make a trash pile, pop it into the bucket, cut the top off, pop it to the. I honestly, I was so mad by the end of this that, and I was only through the first box, and we had 4 boxes, and then I hit Rachel up, and she was like, okay, I'm coming over. And then our taster manager, Paul, they all came over. So it was me, Rachel, my wife, and Paul sitting in my living room with freaking brewery buckets.
Bring it home and watch
And-
TV.
No, we took it home and we turned the TV on and we're all sitting there cutting these things. Well, I'd been doing it for a day and a half, and Rachel showed up to help with the last 2 boxes of it. Her and Paul did. And so they're trying to make light of a really bad situation. I was not a happy camper at that point. And so,
How'd your fingers feel after all that?
oh God. So they literally were flicking them at me at the house. And I've never been so mad in my life. And I was like, listen, if I find one of these later in my house, I'm going to be so upset. We called the beer individually wrapped, which was
Just
very appropriate.
That's great.
But anyways, fast forward, I was cleaning under our couch like 6 months later, and there was a little candy Rachel had flicked at me. And I'm like, ah.
You know what? You probably should have framed it and put it in there with the label. Put it in like a shadow box.
Hardcore, worst experience ever. But I do feel bad about the marshmallow thing because she does. She sits there and cuts the top off every single bag and gets them ready and dumps them all by hand. And,
I hope you buy her like a full Dickies jumpsuit so she can get through her brew day. Because it sounds like she's just getting bombarded with random explosions of raspberries and marshmallows.
I usually come out a complete mess. Like, there is fruit and sugary substances all over me.
Hairnet all day. You're gonna like a cafeteria lady because there's no way you want any of that nonsense getting even in your shirt or even in your hair. Oh, I can't imagine. I'd need a full hazmat suit to kind of do that. Full hazmat.
I have many pictures of Rachel covered in ingredients where she's looking at me like, if you take that picture, I'm gonna kill you. So those they never make it to Instagram, but we've got them.
Rachel, what beers don't make such a mess?
The lager.
Yeah, the lager. and that's why she loves them so much. I don't blame you one bit.
I love the barrel-aged beers. Even if they are messy, they are beautiful. So I love putting fruit in barrel-aged beers. But mostly...
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what is the most recent one? Give us a little breakdown of what the most recent barrel-aged beer that you guys have put out there is compromised. Like, what is it made of? How did you go through the process?
Yeah, so the most recent one that we've packaged, we named it Difficult Correspondence, and it's a blend of Imperial Saison base and Virginia wine barrels. And
wow.
we blended it into steel and conditioned it on Narangilla, which is a cool little fruit. I'd never had it before, but we bought it from a fruit company, and it's just really interesting. Bright citrus, orange, but not super sweet. It has this nice, like, earthy complexity to it. So, I don't know. I love the beer. I'm really excited for people to get their hands on it.
We used to do a bunch of different variants of a saison, and it was all fruit added. And I don't find that many breweries using fruit in saisons. Usually, kind of got to keep it traditional. But let me tell you, the complexity you get out of it just from the yeast profile and then adding the fruit to it, man, you could really, really make something fantastic. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah,
I would be so interested to try that. I have to come down to Virginia and
definitely. We'll save a couple cans for you.
nice.
Rachel's kind of cutting herself short on that, though. I think one of the things that she is absolutely phenomenal and amazing. I mean, she's amazing at making everything that we make, but she's so insanely and naturally talented when it comes to blending barrels. And so, one of the best barrel aged beers that we've ever made, hands down, was the first barrel aged beer that Rachel had made, and still she does it yearly now, called Demure Defiance. And Rachel has a knack for blending, and really, we utilize in our barrels. We have a little over 100 barrels, and each barrel, we have our base saison with our base house culture in a lot of them, but then the other, 2/3 of them have random mixes of different cultures and wild yeast strains, and whether it's Brettanomyces or some that's different strains of Lactobacillus, or some that's Pediococcus, and some that's a little bit of everything, and some melange strains and stuff like that. But Rachel has this like keen ability to blend those together almost perfectly, and so you'll see her sitting at the table with 50 little taster glasses and her, what is it called, Ray? Your lab thing?
Wine thief.
Well, no,
DMA.
I bet.
she uses her like little lab. I
The
don't know.
DMA. It measures density.
Okay,
So like
yeah.
yeah.
So she'll, but slowly, taking out so much of each one and mixing it and taking notes and writing it down and spending hours coming up with the perfect mix, and then to watch that kind of painstaking 2-day long process, and then throw it in a tank, pair it perfectly with whatever fruit that she's dreamed up, and try it after a couple months of sitting in still, and you're just like, how the F did we make this? So
Speaking of which, I have the sour that you sent us. All right, so this is a sour ale. You ready? With Hershey's chocolate. All right, ice cream cones, maraschino cherries, banana, cherries, marshmallows, vanilla, lactose, and rainbow sprinkles. This is dessert tonight. No, it's just called Don't Be Weird.
So I have to say, unfortunately, this was my idea. I did this myself.
It reminds me, Rachel, of like childhood. It's got this flavor profile that I recall of when I would eat an ice cream cone from the ice cream man. It has that same feel.
Yeah.
It's
I did this all to myself.
So yeah, it's so out there. But it's like nostalgia in a glass. Tell us a little bit about this process.
So a couple of the beers that I've made recently have really been kind of like nostalgia focused, at least for things that I used to eat or enjoy when I was a kid. This being one of them. Another one was one of our like Punch Yourself series beers. So it's based on like punch bowls that you would drink at college parties.
Yeah.
But this one I chose to do as, like the rainbow sherbet punch bowls. you used to drink at like baby showers or something
With
stupid.
like the champagne in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I focused it off of
There you
that
go.
one.
That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. But this one I wanted it to be like the ultimate ice cream sundae. So I just put a list of ingredients that I would put in my ice cream sundae and figured, it'd probably taste pretty good in a beer. I mean, you can't go wrong with a bunch of sweet ingredients. And then there is a natural tartness from the addition of fruits when you make any other kind of food items. So the idea was to keep the beer a higher pH to keep the acidity level down. So it was more sweet, but still had a little bit of a tartness to kind of keep it balanced and approachable and not kind of overwhelmingly diabetic or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sweet, but it has that tartness to kind of balance it out. So it has that kind of feel that, you're like you were saying, the punch bowl from the sherbet. It's right there. That's probably what I'm thinking about, actually.
Did you use actual like rainbow sprinkles? Is that?
Yes.
They call them Jimmys down there, don't they?
They do.
Jimmy's.
They do call them Jimmys.
I went to
Thank
school.
you.
Do they?
I went to school in Maryland, and I remember they're called Jimmys. I know, it's strange. And then
Never heard of that.
And then grinders instead of heroes. We call them heroes up here, but they're hoagies and
Never
grinders
heard of
down there.
grinders.
Hoagies and
Never heard of
grinders.
Oh, hoagies. Yeah, hoagies and grinders.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that like a
Lady
Adam Sandler?
beans. New
It was,
York.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The only reason I know about it is Adam Sandler's song.
Slappy Joe.
Okay.
Slappy Joe.
Yeah,
Not just me. Okay, good.
No, but I mean, I remember when I went down to school in Maryland, there was a lot of things that changed their name, and one of the things that really stood out was Jimmy's, and I went, Jimmy's? What is it? What's a Jimmy? Like sprinkles. I go, okay, you got it. I'll take Jimmy's.
Never heard that before.
Yeah.
Me either.
See?
Never.
I am multicultural
Interesting.
here in the United States. I'll tell you that for sure.
Is that a thing?
Indeed.
You're right. It's just being American. That's my fault.
I don't know about that one.
No, it's not a thing up here. No one calls them Jimmys up here. They just call them sprinkles. So this really has that kitchen sink element to it, though, just because the bananas are there. I can feel those. I can taste those. The marshmallows are there again. You guys use marshmallow on a lot of these, from the hazy that we had before to the sour now. What are some of the most, experimental beyond what we just talked about? Is there anything more experimental than this?
I mean, we've played around with a bunch of things in the past. I've always loved experimenting with herbs in beer.
Ah, okay.
So, herbs
ever
and
done a
spices.
gruit?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever done a gruit?
No.
We should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was
Never heard of
on
it.
the schedule tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's-
beer, basically like a beer without hops, right? You
Yeah.
use herbs as
Bunch of herbs and spices as the bitter.
I only know because one of the like the first
Gotcha.
brewers we had on had brought one out, and I thought it was interesting. It tasted a little bit like an herbal tea kind of quality to it, as opposed
Yeah.
to like hops.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it didn't have that bitterness that you would get from hops.
Right.
It had a different bitterness to it.
Yeah. I think it's right up Rachel's alley, honestly.
It sounds exactly what the chemist
But-
would want to do.
But you have to add 7,000 peeps to it, and
I'm out.
Nope, out. She's out.
check out.
I don't mind the ghost, but the 7,000 peeps would put me over the edge. I'm done.
I
So,
was
Gad,
no, I was gonna say earlier the Peeps, man. We were talking about the Smashmallow. I think I'm glad we did the Peeps beer. I think it turned out awesome, but it's not even close to what we got with most of the original Smashmallows. I think there's something in those Peeps that are just like I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's different. You don't get the same marshmallow kind of mouthfeel and effect as you do with the real marshmallows.
I'd imagine it's a different kind of process to make that marshmallow, even though it might be the same
yeah.
ingredients, just because they last 15 years in your fridge,
I was just going to say,
18 years in your
Yeah.
cupboard.
last a quarter of a century. And,
Yeah.
You know what else we found out making the Peeps beer is that the Peeps eyes, no matter what we could do to those things, they don't dissolve. And so
Really?
Oh,
we had, I literally had,
that's trouble.
well,
Globules.
so the beer turned green, which I think is awesome. So you add a bunch of blue to gold and yellow, and it turns green. And so we had a green beer, but we literally had somebody shoot us an email about 2 or 3 weeks ago that said, "Hey, you might want to check your brewing process. My beer poured green." And it had a little fleck of mold in it, and I'm like, well, it's one of two things. It's either it's either the vanilla that we put in there, or a Peeps eyeball, which we realize does not go away when you subject it to heat and or liquid.
Since you're not filtering, that stuff just went right through.
It went right in, and so they never emailed me back. I literally was like, I'll send you something else if you're not happy with it, but I guarantee it's not mold, and it's. The beer's supposed to be.
Bro, I would add something to the can where it said, "With real peep eyes inside."
The peeps are still looking at you.
I literally
beer that stares back.
There you go.
I poured one out of the can and had a peep eye fall out, and I'm like, "What the f, man?"
I'll tell you, the nougat in Snickers, same thing, doesn't go away. We would find these like concretions of white just boulders. What the? And it was the nougat didn't break down. I'm like,
oh my god!
My goodness.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I literally have a Snicker beer on the schedule in about a month.
What's it called?
You guys need to talk offline. There's
yeah.
If there's anyone experienced in making Snickers and beer.
The nougat does not go away. If you put it in hot side, probably would, but we would add it cold side.
Oh.
And so you hear you're trying to get a pull of yeast off. You're like, white, what's going on? What? It's this boulder jammed right in the cone. It's like, oh,
that's hilarious.
I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of circumvent the actual Snickers bar, right? A little cocoa powder, maybe peanut butter powder, something to kind of substitute.
Oh yeah, we had to go away from the Snickers once we started, doing 15 barrels of it. Where when we started out, we were doing a couple of barrels of it, and once you get to that part, there's not enough people I could hire to open up wrappers and
yeah.
Free beer only goes so far.
We normally try and rebuild it ourselves, honestly. And Rachel,
and that's what you have to do.
She's really good at it. So her thing's flavor, and she kind of started to get to this earlier. And but she does this series that's called Crazy Pants, which is less of a slushy series and more of a balance between fruit and spice. And so the things that she's able to do with that, balancing the fruit and spice, it's like it literally is shit you've never tasted in beer before. So you're kind of just like. When you taste it, you're like, holy crap, I did not think that you could put what was the last thing you put in? Was it thyme? Yeah. She put thyme in there, and I was scared out of my mind. And then I tried it, and I'm like, dude, it works. So,
well, that brings me back to that one I had when I was there, the Party Dinosaur with the chili lime. I mean, unbelievable balance. Give us, Rachel, give me a breakdown of that, because I really like to convey that to my wife exactly what's going on here. Because she was like, what is this magical elixir? I go, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like to look at beer as like a balance of everything and kind of seeing how each thing plays off of one another. And, most people will look at a sour and spicy kind of thing and they shy away. It's just two very extremes put together. But if you're able to balance both of those, it usually will work out. So originally the idea came from, I think it's a Mexican dish, but it's like papaya, mango, lime with chili sprinkled on it. You just eat the fruit with that little bit of spice character to it.
Sounds like something that you would garnish a nice drink with, a margarita or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really wanted to kind of play into that. We had made a chili beer with similar spices before. So one of them is ají panca spice, which is, it's spicy on the front end, but it doesn't last, like it doesn't linger on the back of your palate. So it's really a quick spice, kind of like wasabi or, horseradish. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
like a quick spice.
Yeah.
And the other one was Pasilla. So we went at like a 3-to-1 ratio of those. Pasilla will last a little longer on the back of your palate.
Huh.
Um,
And where does that go in during the brewing process? I mean, those are, unusual ingredients. Are you playing with front end, back end, like Steve was saying before, hot end, cold end?
Yeah, so we pick hot versus cold based on what we're putting in it. So things like lavender or herbs, where if you steep them, you get a lot more expression from them, we'll actually put in on the cold side so that you can kind of control how much expression you want in the beer. But we put the spice in on the cold side as well, and that's just so we can throw it in there, we can kind of circulate it and mix the spices up and see if we need to add more or less based on how it's tasting out of the tank.
Almost like a double dry hop lavender.
Yes.
On the front and the back side. Well, I was saying this before, and I know I walked away for a minute about the barrel program. What is the things you guys have loaded up right now, ready to go?
From the barrel program?
Yeah.
So we have a couple things that are about to go into the tanks. I usually try and go back to the barrel room about once a month and just kind of pick different barrels that I think might be ready, or I just want to taste and kind of see where they're at, because a lot of the expression from things that are inside of the barrels take time. Brett will develop, over months and months. So I just like to check in on them. And then the way that I do it personally, every brewer does it differently, but I like to pick a fruit that I want to focus the blend around. And I kind of figure out, how that fruit, like what's going to benefit that fruit the most. Is it acidity, or is that fruit going to benefit from more of a Brett Funk character? And then I'll go in the back and I'll pull certain barrels, and usually you're looking for a blend of acidity, funk, and body.
Okay.
So you want to pick certain barrels. Like we have some that don't have any Brett in them at all, so they're very acidic. Their pH is down at like 2.9 to 3.1. It's very tart. And then we have some that are just Brett, so they're just barnyard funky. Some of them have a little bit more of the fruity characters from Brett. But you're essentially, I just go back there, I pick barrels that I think might be ready, I pull samples from each one of them, and then I taste everyone individually.
How many barrels roughly do you guys have about right now?
We have about 90, I think it is.
Where were those?
Yeah.
Are they stuck behind closed doors?
They're in the back room.
Ah, yeah. See, I didn't get to see those. I
didn't get the full tour.
Yeah, I did. Well, it was very early, and it was only, I think, the bartender and we were talking about Bethany there, but she was too busy scraping every single vanilla bean out of the vanilla bean pods. When you walk around to the brewery to go to the bathroom, you kind of do like a quick tour of the tank area, and then you go to the bathroom. By the way, and I don't say this often, nice bathrooms. I mean, nice modernized bathrooms. I like it. Like you don't anticipate that on a 300-year-old piece of land, but it was. I was like, oh, this is really nice. Well done.
Were you expecting an outhouse?
I don't normally say that, but I remember it being impressionable. I remember saying this is leaving up an impression on me. I like this. Very nice.
I have OCD when it comes to things like that, so the bathrooms are we got to keep them clean. So.
Well, it wasn't just clean; it was just the modernization of it. Just looked right for the place, so it just.
Sweet.
Okay. But I mean, in relative vicinity to that, where would be the barrels? Is it behind the walk-in, behind the tank room? Where is that located?
So if you were in the tap room, like looking at the facility, the red floor, if you were to walk onto the red floor and go straight back,
okay.
Like if you were to walk through the tap wall, there's a whole another side of the building that we have all of our offices in, and we keep most all of our storage back there and our barrels.
Nice. Yeah, it actually kind of fooled me then, because I wasn't looking at the relative size of the building compared to where we were, not thinking that it was all that extra room back there. So that's awesome. 90 barrels. Yeah. And do you have various things going on, and any of them using that wild yeast, or are they all using that wild yeast? Is that primarily what you guys are using?
They don't all have it. About 25 or 30% of the barrels are inoculated with that strain, but we've got tons of different bacterial and Brett strains from other yeast banks. Just stuff that we've accumulated over the years.
I would imagine you probably have your own lab.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
He smiles.
Yes, I do.
Doesn't everybody?
No, Peter, not everybody does.
No.
Rachel, we're going to give you a lab, but
Yeah.
I have to open packages of Peeps every so often.
They roped me in with the
comes
lab,
with a cost.
and then a year later, they were
did.
like, "All right."
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
By the
show
way,
you.
the lab is for opening Peeps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the peep room. This is yours.
Well, one of my favorite pictures of Rachel when she started was when I gave her lab equipment that she had been wanting. It is one of the funniest pictures I think that we have. I'm gonna find it while you guys keep talking.
Yeah, there you go. Chris, it'd be a kid in a candy store with it was like Christmas. Hi, I got I got my Bunsen burners. I've got my beakers. I got my.
Erlenmeyer flasks.
I was gonna say whatever
Yeah.
those cylinders, graduated cylinders. I think I thought of it. See?
Wow.
I got it.
Pulling back that chemistry knowledge, aren't
A
you?
little bit. Oh, I'm so excited. That's fantastic.
Oh, did you show it?
That's all.
Yeah.
I can only see one person at a time.
Oh
so.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no!
No, Russ, just say something and you'll pop up on our screen when you show it again.
Hang on. All right, Rachel, can you hear me? Are you seeing my face right now?
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes. I was very happy.
That's awesome.
No, so, yeah, we got her all of her own stuff back there. She's a happy camper. So
That's good. It was worth the tuition.
Yes.
I want to get into a little bit of, like I said at the back end, I wanted to talk a little more about Sourfest here because this is coming up on Saturday. Give us is it one session, 2 sessions? I know there's some going to be physical, a lot is virtual. How are you guys balancing out the physical and virtual? What are you doing for the virtual end? Give us that big rundown.
well, so you'll probably be surprised to know that we're still scrambling to figure out a lot of this, but which is why I'm still here at 8 or whatever 9:45. No, so originally it started as the online thing, and then when it opened up, it was like, let's see how we can tie these together. So we have a lot of stuff planned. With FML last year, we took more of an educational approach at let's educate people about the scene and about beers and what's going on in the scene and women in the scene and different types of adjuncts that are being used, stuff like that. And then this time around, honestly, my goal was kind of just let's do entertainment stuff. So we had all these really, really big plans, but then when it opened up to the physical fest, we've got my teams kind of go in 2 different directions at the same time. And so we have some stuff planned. Rachel and I and a couple of the other managers went to Tennessee and made knives with one of the Forged in Fire judges a couple weeks ago. So that was a lot of fun, and we all did that, learned how to do that, and have some pretty cool video from that. So we're going to be showing that. We did some glass blowing with Pretentious Glass Co., who owns Pretentious Beer Co. in Knoxville.
Yes.
And so did some stuff with them. We're going to be showing, but along with the Friends with Benefits theme, a lot of the stuff is, focused on just weird, random, crazy stuff. And so we're doing we have 2 employees that we're gonna do a dating show with, and they've pre-recorded some of that already, and so we're gonna finish that the day of. We're doing a tattoo roulette, which for me is scary because I have 1 tattoo, and a lot of the folks in it don't care because they're tatted up like crazy, and so it's going to be a mix of random drawings that we have not much say about. And
Do you know what the things on the board are at this point?
No, we have a meeting with the tattoo artist on Wednesday, and we're going to figure out. But part of it is trying to get the folks that paid in for the tickets to get involved, and so we will. It scares the piss out of me because Myself and my family, we have a really religious background, and so I don't want to end up with like Satan or a goat on my arm, and so
Oh no.
Just a pentagram on your forehead.
it's bad enough that my in-laws have to put up with the fact that their son-in-law owns a brewery, yeah. So I mean, we're doing that. We're doing we're doing a session on glassware and the importance of glassware, and we're bringing in some of the hype glassware makers to do some stuff there. So we've got Frit Glass is going to be on, Huffy is going to be on, we'll have Pretentious will be on, and then one of the guys who's coming up in the scene with connecting artists to other people, Thick Boys, will be there kind of talking about that piece. We're doing another educational piece about sours, and then an educational piece about the new or newish, I guess, pastry / smoothie style sours and where that goes. And so it's we're doing gosh, I don't even know if I want to say this right now, but it's the staff came up with this game called and the breweries are going to play it called Guess Who's in Your Mouth, and they're going to pour different beers.
So it's going to be like, guess which brewery is going to be
Exactly,
there.
yeah. And so we'll be doing
I hope
that.
so. I hope that's all it is.
That's a Dane Cook bit
Is it?
Yeah, so,
in my mouth.
Oh, you might be right.
it is Dane Cook. Have
Yeah.
you seen that guy?
No,
Have you seen
not
him
recently.
No.
Has he gotten
dude.
old?
Fat.
Do yourself a favor and Google
Well,
it right
obviously, I mean,
now. Dude, plastic surgery so
really?
bad.
Oh, no.
It looks like he got.
Dane.
It looks like he got hit by a bus and like blew up. I mean,
no.
Google it, and you're gonna be like,
Ow. Yeah.
what?
Ugh.
yeah, that is.
Yeah, you're welcome, right?
Yeah,
That was-
yes, there you go.
It's like a Mickey Rourke level
Oh, no.
transition.
Oh, dang.
right?
And you
I
were
know,
so
that's what I
funny.
said.
You were
It
selling
was
out.
so funny.
You were selling out Madison Square Garden and
Yeah.
the Boston Garden, and now
Fucking eyebrows.
he
Yo,
had, he had
good Lord.
decent movies.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Kevin Hart got in his head, man. He
Yeah,
was-
it might be true.
oh
my goodness.
honestly, anyways, we're going to be doing a bunch of different funny stuff, and kind of keeping along with the Friends with Benefit theme, but we're also giving away $17,500 of the money made to charity.
Nice.
Part of it, one of the things is we wanted during COVID. It's been hard on charities, and so we gave the breweries a chance to bring charities from their home market in, and instead of pitting the best, you don't want to go to the best breweries in the country and be like, hey, it's going to be first, second, and third place, and if you don't, you didn't win. Sorry, bro. And so we came up with this idea of doing like a superlative, like you would in high school.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's very
Most likely to sour a beer. Or...
It's a little more.
Yeah,
Yes, right.
What the
Look
fuck
at
is
him.
up with his eyebrows?
Oh my
Oh.
goodness. Oh, Dane wants to look
God.
surprised all the time.
What
That's
is
it.
what?
What
What did
happened?
you do to yourself?
Oh my goodness.
Rachel's sitting here like, who the hell's Dane Cook?
Yeah.
No,
You really don't know.
I don't
Oh,
know.
you know what?
Man.
Oh,
Then,
That's great.
Then you know what? You probably are better off
Good for you.
because he reached.
You'd
such-
be
You
really
also
disappointed.
don't know what MySpace is. You're probably
You're better off too. Yeah. Yeah. It was all just around the same time of Dame reached the pinnacle of comedy, and then what a fall from heaven he had.
Yo.
My goodness, no one kind
His
of reached
brothers
that
steal
level.
like millions and millions
Yes.
of dollars from him too.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Yeah,
Poor
he
dude.
was an idiot and left his brother in charge of his finances and never even questioned, like, oh, where's the $50 million that was in my bank account? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's gone. And his brother had, like, some severe gambling issues and
Oh my
getting
gosh,
into debt
I can
issues
imagine.
and stuff like that. Oh, what a mess. What a mess that whole
Well,
story is.
Horrible. Right, you're better off for not knowing.
Yeah,
what
you
he
know
looked
what?
like
Yeah.
before, so.
I actually, I'm jealous
He was
that
a
you
stud,
don't know
man. He was a
anything.
stud. Yeah, he was a stud.
God.
And he did a movie like 8 or 9 years ago, I think, where he was. I don't remember the whole take on it. It was some like weird dating movie, and then he
Yeah, Jessica
disappeared,
Alba.
and- yeah,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
and then one day I googled to see what he was up to, and found pictures of him looking like somebody punched him in the face
Oh
with a
my
bag
goodness.
of rocks.
And he did
But,
Employee of the Month, which I thought was pretty good.
Yes,
And
It
great
wasn't so
movie.
bad.
there was a couple
Amazing
of good
movie.
movies that he did, and then
Oh,
that
I've
was
seen
it.
that movie.
Yeah, the main character
You know
of
who he
Employee of
is.
the Month.
Yeah. He's
It's like
great.
based in Costco
Yes.
or Sam's
Yes.
Club or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty good. I mean, that was a mainstream movie, and then fall from grace, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Poor guy. Well, anyways, the superlatives
Yeah.
are a little more scandalous in nature, sticking with kind of the theme of the fest. I thought you quit on me there, Ray.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to turn it down a
Well,
little
when
bit.
she's on her phone because the audio didn't work at the beginning, and so every time she gets a text or something, she wants to reply. It
Yeah.
actually mutes out the video.
Ah. Well, so we have these 10 superlatives. 5 will be voted on for the online fest. 5 will be voted on here for the physical fest by folks that pay for each of those different options. And the first place for each one will get $1,000 to their charity back home. The
Wow.
second place will get $500, and third place will get $250. And it literally is stuff like most likely to explode in your face.
450 North wins. Done. Done. I mean, they won already.
So when my wife ordered the beer from him, I was like texting him. I was like, "Hey, I just need to know for her, comfort. Like, will these explode?" And they're like, "Oh yeah."
They're not shying away. No, that will.
God.
I don't know if they're letting people know this yet, so this might be a first. But they're buying a pasteurizer. They told me that the other day.
Hey,
so
look at that.
prepare
all right.
yourselves
They're
'cause,
prepared for full nationwide
it's coming.
distribution.
yeah, man. Yeah.
They've
They're,
gotten so much online hype, though, at this point. They have to. If they want to
dude.
strike now, because that's the only way they're
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
kind of make their
Well,
way
she's-
through here.
Supposedly,
Cold.
ISIS was buying a whole bunch from them.
Yeah,
To,
just,
roadside bomb.
Jesus. It's just everyone's. I've been raspberryized again. My slushy. No.
I
Well.
just got.
Terrible. I mean, the whole hype around that, and listen, I'm sure, and I've never had one of their beers because they're not distributed here. But the only thing I know about them besides their taste is going to be the fact that they explode. They gotta fix that, and the only way to do that is to get it out there and to prove that they can produce a good product.
Yeah, I mean, so when we had our beers explode, the Caterpillar beer, man, there was so much hype around that beer, and we had distributors that understood that side of it, and they were like, "We don't give a damn. Send it to us. We want it. We'll educate the consumer." And I'm like, "All right, yeah, if you want to buy, 2 pallets of exploding beer, I'm totally not going to argue with that." Because we had distributors sending them back, and I'm like, I'll give them to you. And so we sold them to some really cool accounts, up in the Northeast, your all's way,
Really?
throughout
All right.
Maryland, Delaware, and on up. And so, but then we also had accounts that were like, screw this, we're not,
Yeah, they're
they're
not gonna
blowing
risk
up
it.
all over people's shelves.
Right.
So,
They know the deal.
but yeah, they're investing in a pasteurizer, and so
Well,
pretty soon
expect
you
to
will
see
get.
them extremely soon. That'd be fun
Yeah,
to
so
taste
that's
the
cool.
slushy XXL or whatever they
Yeah.
call them, the most pineapple Slurpee, which I've noticed they've gotten away from using some of those kind of close to brand names of certain things that are out there. They've kind of gone their own way. They made their mark, and then now they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So it's good to
Well, I
see them
think
trying
they're
to.
expanding out. The more they expand outside their backyard, I think that's something you gotta take into account. So
Yeah, the further they get, the more they have to be careful on what they're doing there.
yeah. So, I mean, everybody pushes the limits, and knock on wood, we haven't received anything yet. We're pretty careful about some of the stuff we do, or most of the stuff we do. But yeah, it's I don't even remember how do we get it? Oh, the superlatives.
Yes. I want to give you an opportunity to promote the festival coming up on Saturday. Give us the big plug for that. Are there still tickets available?
There are tickets available. VIP is sold out.
Okay.
And honestly, I don't know if folks haven't seen the list for this fest. They need to go look at it. It literally is, people ask me, they're like, how'd you pick this list? And I was like, well, I went through my Instagram and I hit up everybody. I hit up everybody that I follow because I've had their beers and I appreciate them and I like them a lot. And, we've had there's a couple new cats to the scene that have reached out and or that, you know, I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago with Chris. What's Chris's last name? 2 seconds and I'll tell you.
What was the show title? You remember?
Oh gosh, he's gonna kill me when he sees this.
Well, don't forget about the Wort, W-O-R-T, with Mike, Pete, and Steve for the next podcast you're on.
Yeah, you had to put me on the spot. I was trying to beat it too before you did that.
So close.
Anyways, well, Chris, it's like Uncapped, I think is what it is.
Okay, all right.
Uncapped?
Sure.
Is that right? Uncapped?
Sounds about right.
He's awesome dude, man. And he was like, hey, you know, you don't have much PA representation. That's where I'm at. Let me hook you up with some of the dudes out here. And so he hooked us up with Fourscore, who I've talked to, and really cool dude. We're stoked about bringing him out. One of the ones that I'm most interested in, honestly, meeting and talking to is Full Tilt.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you look at their Untapped scores, it's one of those things of like, they went from traditional to, I mean, overnight went from traditional beers that were they had average scores, and then now they have some of the highest rated pastry sour beers I've seen on Untapped.
Crazy.
I mean, you're talking like 4, 5, 8s for some of their beers, and I'm like, how the hell did you do that overnight? You know, ours has been a slow transition in that effect, honestly, and culminating with Rachel taking over and really just like making a lot of magic happen here. But it seemed like for them it was overnight. They just went from traditional styles to that. And I had talked to him on the phone and was like, honestly, I just want to talk to you and hear that story because I'm impressed. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty cool. So, you know, Chris was able to hook us up with some of those folks, and so we've got a few folks that are newer to the scene. Let's see, who I'm going to pull up my list real quick.
Was Perennial on there?
Perennial is on there, which
Yeah.
we did a collab with them at one point. We're looking to try and get in there again and do another one with them.
Now, did they come to you, or did you guys go to them? Or did you even do that?
For the collab?
Yeah.
So that was back when our the brewer was here before our other brewer, Mike, and
Okay.
he went to the Honey Summit and he met the Perennial guys there, and so he went back and did a collab with them. And then most recently, when we invited him to this fest, you know, we'd reached out because we had stuff in barrels with them and said, hey, it'd be killer if we could get that beer out here to just kind of pour at the fest. And something happened with the beer that didn't work out, so they ended up having to dump it. And so but they did at that point say, hey, we'd love to have you back out. Let's redo it. We'd love to have Rachel and come back out and let's do it again.
Very
And
cool.
so hopefully we'll be able to make that one happen. But we've got, I mean, honestly, so many names on here, but we've got 450, Alvarado, American Solera, Aslan, Bearded Iris, Benchtop, who's local here, and we really like those guys a whole lot. Barrel Culture, Beechwood, Black Project, Casa Agria, Crooked Stave, Kushwa, Deciduous. We're going to be doing a collab with Deciduous while he's in. Fourscore, Full Tilt, Grim, Heavy Reel. Heavy Reel's one of the newer ones to the scene, and you know, he sent us a bunch of beer down, which honestly I feel bad it got destroyed in shipping, but it was like the truck showed up and beer was leaking and we were popping them and like trying, you know, drinking them as they were going. The dude makes some crazy good sours, and we found that out because we were drinking the ones that popped in the truck. But you know, Hoof Hearted's coming down. Imprint, Ingenious. We know the Ingenious guys really well. Jay Wakefield's coming. Mass Landing, McKellar, Perennial, Pretentious, Shilling's.
Wow.
Okay, so this. I'm going to stop reading because there's a bunch of them. But the Shilling texted us, and we're really good friends with Shilling, and of course they're Lager Kings, and so they texted and were like, hey, can we send lagers? And I'm like, that's a great idea because most people are going to want sours, or most people are here for sours, but people are going to want, you know, real beers. So we're setting up a real beer table with Rachel's lager. Shilling's going to have a lager, and then Benchtop, who's local here, has a Foeder Age lager that they're going to send out. So we'll have a real beer tent for all those traditionalists that are looking for some real beer. And then, just a bunch of other mostly pastry sours, a couple barrel aged sours. Hermit Thrush has some really killer barrel aged stuff that he's sending down, which I think is going to be pretty legit. Tripping Animals sending us some cool stuff.
Saw that. Yeah, Tripping Animals on the list. Yeah.
Let me tell you, people's palates are going to be wrecked after that fest.
So I'll tell you, we are going to pour, and Rachel doesn't even know this yet. She was her. So we did the additions for this beer today, Ray, before you left, and we're doing a collab with Bearded Iris, and we are going to put it in our VIP area. And it's a clean fruited IPA, and so holy crap! I just tasted that thing as it came out of the pasteurizer, and it is. Can you hear me?
It's not clean. It's a sour.
Oh, it is a sour. But you can't. It's a sour IPA. Sorry,
it's as clean sour as a fruited sour can be.
Fruited sour IPA. Regardless, I mean, honestly, there's so much fruit in it, you can't really tell. But it's it is so damn juicy that I was sitting there drinking it with a guy who's running it through the pasteurizer, and we were both looking at each other like, holy fuck, this is so good. So it's so we're going to be pouring that beer inside as well. Or no, we're pouring that outside, right, Ray?
It's inside.
Inside. Yeah, VIP. So but anyways, we've got some cool collabs that are going to be on. We just did a collab where Rachel paired up with Weldworks. So we she was inspired by Trix yogurt, which was a thing when she was coming up, and so we did one half of the yogurt because it was like a mixed flavor. We did the cotton candy half, they did the berry blast half, and so that beer has been we've been out of it for a while, but we saved 2 sixtels. They're sending us some, and we're going to pour that side by side in VIP area as well. So
Jesus.
And so yeah, it's we've got some really amazing folks that have sent out some really amazing beers, and honestly, for us here in Virginia, it's just to be able to introduce Virginia to some of these folks, I think is really, it's really cool, and to do it at the end of COVID, and not only shine a light on what everybody else is doing, but also our amazing brewer that we have, I think is super, super awesome as well. So
yeah, it's almost like a coming out of hibernation kind of deal, and people are going to probably lose their minds on the amount of flavors that they're going to pass through over the next 24 hours that Saturday. Where can people buy tickets, Russ?
Which website do you want? So we kind of did this. We did this clickbait website that's kind of funny, and so it's easiest to remember. But it's stayjuicybro.com, and we've been putting it on random signs and on the back of people's cars and shit like that. And so just so people will go to it not knowing what it is. But if you go to stayjuicybro.com, you can get your tickets there.
Is it a link through the Instagram or social media or anything like that?
I think it is on our Instagram. If you go to our Instagram, you go to the profile, it will have the link there. But it's either fwbsourfest.com or stayjuicybro.com, whatever you want to do. But I've told everybody this is a fest that if we weren't doing it, I would travel 6 hours for this thing. So it's I definitely think it's going to be worth it. Everybody's bringing at least 2 different beers. Some of them have 4 different beers, and so it'll be limited release of a lot of different things, and it will be well worth the time and the cash to come in and try these things out. So,
and with the warmer weather coming up and everything opening up, now's the time to strike fast before some of these festivals really start to get ridiculous, like AC Beer Fest down June 4th and 5th that we'll be broadcasting live from. You guys are going to really strike while the iron's hot here, because this is like the first one that I've even heard of actually happening, at least on the Northeast or in the East Coast at all. So you guys are going to have a good turnout. If you need your tickets, go to Oozle Finch on Instagram. Just go ahead and type in Oozle, and you'll find it immediately. It's the only one out there on Instagram named Oozle. Oozle, E-L? Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, Ellie. You're right.
And Finch, one of my favorite bands, by the way. So it always holds a place in my heart. Rachel, really quick, I got a quick question for you I wanted to ask you earlier, and I forgot. If you could have one piece of equipment in the brewery right now that you guys don't have, besides the pasteurizer, what would it be?
Odor.
A cool ship.
Ooh.
She's asking
Or-
it, saying, I want to go.
That surprises me, actually.
Or-
That surprises me.
Or floors that
tanks?
slope properly.
Fluff. Oh, no.
Shots fired.
You can just claim that's a settling ocean beach, I guess,
Yeah.
whatever you call it. The island itself is settling, so it's just improperly settled.
I paid
definitely,
for-
definitely a cool ship. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I paid
I
for
was going to
slope
say,
floors.
you're
We
probably
just
just going
didn't
to get a lot
get
of squeegee. That might be.
You could blame your
But-
contractor, Russ.
Yeah, it's true. No, honestly, Food Crafters of America, they have like a solid wood cool ship that they make.
Holy shit.
Have you seen it?
Jeez.
You gotta go on their Instagram and look at it. But
We're
that
following
thing
them, but I
is-
don't know.
is legit.
I don't travel to it specifically, so now I will. So check
Dude,
it
they
out.
posted it about 6 months ago, and my comments on there is like must have. That's what I want.
Followed up by Rachel's comments of must have, want have.
Yeah.
She
Hashtag
said cool
get me
shit.
this.
Like that's not what I expected. So honestly,
Ooh.
that makes me really happy.
There you go.
I expected lagering tanks. Is what I expected.
Well, that too, but that's a side of lagering with
Yeah.
a main course of cool ship. Rachel, Russ, you guys have been awesome, man. I really appreciate you guys' time spending with us. Best of luck on the festival coming up on Saturday. Go to, again, Oozle Finch on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, anything that you can find, and buy your tickets for Sourfest. There's probably only a few left, and as soon as people get the word that this is actually happening and that everything's opening up, I guarantee you're going to have a flood of people in the next few days, buying up the rest of those tickets that are available. And thank you so much for sending the beers. Awesome, as usual. I didn't think anything was going to be anything less than what we had down there. And definitely when you're in the Virginia area, if you're in our local area and you're hearing the podcast tonight, get down there. If you're down in Williamsburg, make the 25-minute trip, I guess, down there and go right to Fort Monroe, put it into the Waze, and find Oozle Finch. You can't miss it. It's the only place that's actually open on the island besides an army barrack. So check them out. Oozle Finch, beers and blending. Thanks, guys, very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you.
This,
Cheers.
yes, this is The Word with Mike, Pete, and Steve. GubsRadio.com. Check out the podcast. Probably going to be up tomorrow on Spotify, on iTunes, and, of course, with our boys at the Hopped Up Network. We're going to be live on June 4th and June 5th at the AC Beer Fest. You will not hear us live in studio or live either on a Zoom until June 28th. So we're going to shoot that whole weekend. We're going to air it that
my
following.
birthday.
Oh, there you go. Happy birthday.
Nice.
And we will we'll see you guys very, very soon. And again, if you guys are in the Northeast area, get your tickets for AC Beer Fest at AC Beer Fest on Instagram and Twitter. And thanks to all our sponsors tonight. Pete, I'm sorry, we'll start with Steve. Steve, what do you got for us tonight?
Well, if you're at a brewery in Virginia and you hear what sounds like somebody's uncle having a seizure, that's just a pig waiting to go home.
That's Oozle Finch. Go grab a sour. Peter?
Don't forget to have your pet spayed or neutered,
That's
especially
right.
if it's a pig.
Yeah, get the big spader, dude. This is The Word with Mike, Pete, and Steve. GubsRadio.com. We out.
Well, that's 2 hours of your life that you'll never get back.
Are you kidding me?
Please hang up and try again.
This has been The Wort on Govs Radio. I hope